Welcome, dear friends. Today, I invite you to experience a heartwarming tale of healing, love, and the strength of family bonds. Enjoy the story.
Emma sat on a weathered park bench, the cool autumn breeze rustling the vibrant leaves above her. Her eyes were fixed on two small figures racing across the playground. Max and Sophie, her beloved niece and nephew, filled the air with their joyful laughter, oblivious to the world around them. It had been a year since the tragic accident that took her brother and his wife, leaving Emma as the sole guardian of the twins. Balancing her demanding job as a nurse with the responsibilities of raising two children was a challenge she hadn't anticipated, but she embraced it with all the love she could muster. As Emma watched the children play, a wave of melancholy swept over her. The park, once a place of joy and solace, now carried the weight of her new reality. She sighed, pulling her coat tighter against the chill, when she noticed an elderly man approaching. He walked with a cane, his steps slow but deliberate, and his eyes twinkled with warmth as he observed the children. Emma's protective instincts flared up, but something about his gentle demeanor put her at ease. "Your children are delightful," the man said, his voice soft and filled with nostalgia. "They remind me of my own grandchildren." Emma smiled, feeling an unexpected connection with this stranger. "Thank you, but they're actually my niece and nephew," she explained. "I'm their guardian." The man nodded, his expression shifting to one of understanding and sympathy. "That must be a great responsibility," he said. "It's clear you care for them deeply." Emma felt a lump rise in her throat. "It is, but they're all I have left of my brother and sister-in-law," she replied, her voice tinged with sadness. The man sat down beside her, the wood of the bench creaking under his weight. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said quietly. "I lost my wife a few years ago. It's not easy, facing life without the ones we love." Emma's heart softened. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That must have been incredibly difficult." He offered a small, bittersweet smile. "It was," he admitted, "but life has a way of surprising us, even in the darkest times. My name is Henry, by the way. Henry Caldwell." Emma extended her hand, feeling a spark of connection as they shook. "I'm Emma. It's nice to meet you, Henry." Over the next few days, Emma found herself thinking about Henry often. There was something about his kind eyes and gentle manner that resonated with her. So when Henry invited her and the twins to visit his home for a playdate, she hesitated only briefly before accepting. She wasn't one to trust strangers easily, especially with the children, but something about Henry felt different, safe even. Emma was taken aback by its grandeur when they arrived at Henry's mansion. The sprawling estate was far more than she had imagined, with its towering columns, manicured gardens, and an air of quiet opulence that spoke of old money and a life of comfort. Yet, there was a warmth to the place that made it feel inviting rather than intimidating. Henry greeted them at the door, his face lighting up as Max and Sophie bounded inside, their eyes wide with wonder. "Welcome," he said, his smile genuine. "I'm so glad you could come." Emma felt her initial apprehension melt away as they stepped into the house. The inside was just as impressive as the outside, with high ceilings, elegant furniture, and walls adorned with artwork that looked like it belonged in a museum. But what struck Emma the most was the sense of history and love that permeated the space. It was clear this house had been a home, filled with memories of a life well lived. As the children explored, Henry turned to Emma, his expression growing serious. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice low. "Something I haven't shared with many people." Emma felt a flicker of unease but nodded, encouraging him to continue. "I'm dying," Henry said softly, his eyes filling with tears. "The doctors say I have only a few months left, maybe a year if I'm lucky. The thought of spending my final days alone in this big, empty house, it terrifies me." Emma's heart clenched with sympathy. She couldn't imagine the pain and fear Henry must be feeling, facing the end of his life without anyone by his side. "Oh, Henry," she said gently, reaching out to take his hand. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea." Henry squeezed her hand in return, a sad smile on his lips. "Not many people do," he admitted. "I've kept it to myself, not wanting to burden anyone. But when I met you and the twins, something inside me changed. I felt a connection, a sense of kinship that I haven't felt in a long time." He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for what he was about to say next. "Emma, I know we've only just met, but I feel like I can trust you. I want to ask if you would consider moving in with me, becoming my live-in companion and caregiver, In return, I'll provide for you and the twins in every way possible. You could quit your job, focus on raising the children in a stable, loving environment, and all I ask for is a little companionship in my final days." Emma's eyes widened with shock. The offer was as unexpected as it was generous, and her mind reeled at the implications. "Henry, I don't know what to say. This is all so sudden." Henry nodded, his expression understanding. "I know it's a lot to take in," he said, "but I want you to know that I mean it. I would take care of you and the twins, make sure you have everything you need. And in return, all I ask is for some company in these final days of mine." Tears pricked at the corners of Emma's eyes, overwhelmed by the kindness of this man who had entered their lives like a guardian angel. She knew that accepting his offer would change everything, would mean taking a leap of faith into an uncertain future. But as she looked into Henry's eyes and saw the hope and longing there, she knew she couldn't say no. Not when he needed her so desperately, not when he was offering her and the twins a chance at a better life. She said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "We'll do it. We'll move in with you, Henry, and I promise I'll be there for you every step of the way. You won't have to face this alone." Henry's face lit up with joy, tears spilling down his cheeks as he pulled her into a fierce hug. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for giving me a reason to keep going, for bringing love and laughter back into my life." And as Emma held him tight, feeling the warmth of his embrace and the love that flowed between them, she knew that she had made the right choice, that this was exactly where she was meant to be, with the man who had become like a father to her and the children who were her whole world. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity as Emma and the twins settled into their new life at Henry's mansion. It was a big adjustment, going from their tiny apartment to the sprawling grandeur of the estate, but Henry made the transition as smooth as possible. He hired tutors and nannies to help with the children's education and care, allowing Emma to focus on both the children and Henry's needs. Max and Sophie quickly adapted to their new environment. Max, who had always been shy and reserved, came out of his shell, laughing and chattering like a little bird. Sophie, who had been prone to angry outbursts and tantrums, became calmer and more focused, thriving under the structure and stability of their new life. But it was Henry who surprised Emma the most. Despite his failing health, he seemed to come alive in the presence of the twins. His eyes sparkled with joy as he played with them in the garden or read them stories by the fire. Emma watched in amazement as the bond between them grew stronger every day, as Henry became the grandfather figure that Max and Sophie had never had. One evening, as Emma and Henry sat together in the garden watching the twins play in the fading light, Henry turned to her with a serious expression. "Emma," he said softly, taking her hand in his, "there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Emma felt her heart beat, a sense of unease washing over her. "What is it, Henry? Is everything okay?" Henry sighed, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. "I have a daughter," he said quietly. "Her name is Grace. We had a falling out years ago, and I haven't seen her since. But now, with my time running out, I want to make things right. I want to see her one last time." Emma's eyes widened with surprise, her mind racing with questions. Why had Henry never mentioned his daughter before? What had happened between them to cause such a rift? But she pushed her curiosity aside, focusing instead on the pain and longing she saw in Henry's eyes. "Of course, Henry," she said softly. "We'll find her. I promise I'll do everything in my power to bring her home to you." Henry's face crumpled with emotion, tears spilling down his cheeks as he pulled her into another hug. "Thank you, Emma," he whispered. "Thank you for everything." The next few weeks were a flurry of activity as Emma threw herself into the search for Grace. She scoured social media, reached out to old friends and acquaintances, and even hired a private investigator to help track her down. But it was like Grace had vanished off the face of the earth. No matter how hard she looked, she couldn't find a single trace of her. Just as Emma was about to give up hope, a miracle happened. Grace showed up on their doorstep, her face haggard and her eyes filled with tears. "I saw your post on Facebook," Grace said, her voice choked with emotion. "I've been running from my past for so long, but when I saw that Dad was sick, I knew I had to come home." Emma watched in amazement as Henry and Grace embraced, years of pain and anger melting away in the face of their love for each other. Over the next few days, as Grace settled into life at the mansion, Emma began to see a different side of her. Grace was kind and gentle, with a natural affinity for the twins. She played with them for hours on end and read them bedtime stories, just like Henry used to. As the days passed, the bond between Grace and the twins grew stronger, and Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of relief and joy. Grace's presence brought a new dynamic to their family, one that was filled with love and understanding. The mansion, once a place of solitude and sadness, was now alive with laughter and the sounds of a family healing together. One evening, as they sat together in the living room sorting through old photos and mementos, Grace suddenly froze, her eyes fixed on a picture of a woman that Emma had placed on the mantelpiece. "Where did you get this?" Grace asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma looked up, surprised by the intensity of Grace's reaction. "That's my sister-in-law, Lily," she said softly. She was Max and Sophie's mother. Grace's face drained of color, her hand shaking as she reached out to take the photo. "Lily," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "My God, it can't be." Emma felt a sense of unease wash over her, a niggling suspicion taking root in her mind. "Grace," she said slowly, "did you know Lily?" Grace looked up at her, tears in her eyes. "She was my best friend," she whispered. "We grew up together, but I lost touch with her when I moved away. I never knew she had children." Emma's heart ached for Grace. "Lily never told anyone who the father was," she said softly. "Not even me. She wanted to protect him, to give him the chance to live his own life." Grace shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "But I should have been there," she said, her voice raw with grief. "I should have been by her side, raising our children together. But I was too selfish, too caught up in my own life to see what really mattered." Emma reached out and took Grace's hand, her heart aching for the pain she was going through. "You couldn't have known, Grace," she said gently. "Lily never told anyone who the father was. She wanted to protect you, to give you the chance to live your own life." Grace shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "But I should have been there," she said again, her voice breaking. "I should have been the mother that they deserved, the partner that Lily needed. And now it's too late." Emma felt tears prick at the corners of her own eyes, her heart breaking for the woman before her. "It's not too late, Grace," she said fiercely. "You're here now, and you're a part of the twins' lives. You have the chance to be the mother that Lily always wanted you to be, to give them the love and support that they need." Grace looked up at her, a glimmer of hope shining through the darkness of her grief. "You really think so?" she asked, her voice trembling. Emma nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I know so," she said softly. "Lily would be so proud of the woman you've become, Grace, and I know that together we can give the twins the family they've always deserved." Grace squeezed her hand, a sense of determination settling over her features. "You're right," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I may have lost Lily, but I won't lose the twins. I won't let them grow up without a mother. Not when I have the chance to be there for them now." As they sat there together, hand in hand, the weight of their shared history and the promise of their future stretching out before them, Emma knew that they had finally found the missing piece of their family, the love and strength that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. The next few months passed in a blur of hospital visits and doctor's appointments as Henry's health continued to decline. But through it all, Emma and Grace were by his side, holding his hand and wiping his brow, determined to make his final days as comfortable and peaceful as possible. And as they cared for him together, Emma couldn't help but feel a deep connection to Grace, a sense of kinship that went beyond their shared love for Henry and the twins. She saw the way Grace looked at her, the warmth and tenderness in her eyes, and she knew that she felt it too. But she was afraid to let herself love again, afraid to open her heart to the possibility of loss and heartbreak. It wasn't until one evening, as they sat together by Henry's bedside, that Emma finally found the courage to tell her how she felt. "Grace," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion, "I know this might not be the right time, but I need you to know something. I've fallen in love with you, and I know it's complicated with everything that's happened and the twins and all, but I can't keep pretending that I don't feel something for you." Grace's eyes widened with surprise, her lips parting in a soft gasp. "Emma," she said, her voice rough with emotion, "I don't know what to say." Emma felt her heart sink, fear gripping her. "It's okay," she said quickly. "You don't have to say anything. I needed to tell you." But Grace reached out and took her hand, her fingers intertwining with Emma's. "I love you too, Emma," she said softly. I have for a long time now, and I know it won't be easy, that we'll have to take things slow and figure out how to make this work, but I want to try. I want to build a life with you and with the twins. Emma felt tears spill down her cheeks, a smile breaking across her face as she leaned in and kissed Grace softly. Of course, I'll have you, she whispered. I want nothing more than to be with you, Grace, to raise the twins together and to make a life with you. As they held each other close, their hearts beating as one, Emma knew that this was exactly where she was meant to be, with the woman she loved and the family they had built together. 3 months later, Henry was finally released from the hospital. His health improved thanks to the surgery and treatments he had undergone. Emma and Grace stood hand in hand, watching as he walked out into the sunshine, the twins running to greet him with joyful cries. "Grandpa!" Sophie exclaimed, throwing her arms around his waist. "We missed you so much." "Yeah, Grandpa," Max chimed in, his face splitting into a wide grin. "We're so glad you're okay." Henry laughed, his eyes shining with love as he hugged them close. "I missed you too, my darlings, and I'm so grateful to have you all in my life. What if you've given me a reason to keep fighting, to keep living every day to the fullest?" He looked over at Emma and Grace, a knowing smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "And I see that you two have finally found each other," he said, his voice warm with approval. "I always knew there was something special between you, even if you couldn't see it yourselves." Emma felt her cheeks flush, her heart swelling with love and gratitude for the man who had brought them all together. "We have you to thank for that, Henry," she said softly. "You brought us into your life, into your heart, and you gave us a home and a family. We will never be able to repay you for that." Henry shook his head, his eyes filling with tears. "You already have, my dear. You've given me the greatest gift of all, the gift of love and companionship in my final years, and I know that with you and Grace by their side, Max and Sophie will grow up to be strong, kind, and loving individuals." As they walked out of the hospital together, Henry looked up at the sky, a sense of peace and contentment washing over him. "I never thought I would get a second chance at life," he said softly, almost to himself. "But here I am, surrounded by the people I love most in the world, with a future that looks brighter than I ever could have imagined." He turned to Emma and Grace, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for giving me this gift, for being my family when I thought I had none. I know that whatever time I have left, I will spend it cherishing every moment with you all." Emma felt tears spill down her cheeks, her heart overflowing with love and joy. She knew that the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, that there would be challenges and obstacles to face, but with Grace by her side and the twins and Henry to love and care for, she knew that she could handle anything that life threw their way. And as they walked out into the sunshine, hand in hand, ready to face the future together, Emma knew that she had finally found the happiness and love that she had always dreamed of, that this was the life she was meant to live, with the family she had always longed for. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the new family settled into a comfortable routine. Grace took on a more active role in the children's lives, helping with their education and spending quality time with them. The bond between Grace and Emma grew stronger, their love deepening with each passing day. They found joy in the simple moments, cooking dinner together, playing games with the twins, and sharing quiet evenings by the fire. Henry's health continued to improve, and he often joined them in their activities. He cherished every moment he spent with his newfound family, grateful for the love and companionship they provided. He took great pleasure in watching the twins grow and thrive, their laughter and joy a constant source of comfort for him. One afternoon, as the family gathered in the garden for a picnic, Henry looked around at the smiling faces of those he loved. He felt a deep sense of contentment and peace. "I never imagined my life would turn out this way," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "But I am so grateful for each and every one of you. You've given me a second chance at happiness, and I will cherish it for as long as I live." Emma and Grace shared a smile, their hearts filled with love and gratitude. They knew that their journey together had been challenging, but it had also brought them closer, creating a bond that could never be broken. They looked forward to the future with hope and optimism, knowing that they would face whatever came their way as a united family. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the garden, the family sat together, enjoying the simple pleasures of life. They knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, but they were ready to face it together, their hearts united by love and the strength of their bond. And so, as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Emma, Grace, Henry, Max, and Sophie sat hand in hand, knowing that they had found something truly special, an unbreakable bond of love and family that would carry them through all the challenges and joys that life had to offer. And that, dear friends, is the story of Emma, Henry, Grace, Max, and Sophie, a story of love, redemption, and the enduring power of family. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I hope it touched your heart as much as it did mine.